Now, if you're familiar with Matthew Lewin's story so far, he mentions that, I think it's up there somewhere, maybe this was just an email, but he mentions that his attempts to meditate and for whatever purpose, I don't think he had channeling in mind specifically when he started meditating, but he says that back before 2005 or whatever, his attempts to meditate had just kind of fallen flat on their face, and he would just like meditate and just get some vague images and things, and it wasn't doing much for him until he ran across this book, which is Spiritual Intelligence by Michal Levin. And it seems like it had one printing back in 2000 or whenever it came out, and that was it. Must not have sold very well or something. But that really got my attention. It's like, when somebody like Matthew Lewin, who has developed the ability fairly quickly to be a conscious trance channel, well, when they say, hey, this book really did it for me, that catches my attention. It's like, especially someone like me who's, I guess I have to confess, I'm still searching for the method that works for me. I've dabbled with lots of different types of meditation, a little bit of hypnotism, but haven't gone too far with that. By the way, if you want to do hypnotism, get somebody to babysit the kids. It's not going to happen otherwise. Anyway, so basically the way I view it is the meditation and channeling and those kinds of things, the psychic abilities, it's always been on my kind of back burner, and I touch upon it here and there, and it's one of the things where I'm always like, oh yeah, I really should work on that or something. But when I have gotten down to it and started meditating regularly and things, it seems like it never can get something that quite works. Like Paul Solomon's Inner Light Consciousness, I mean, the visualization aspect is great, but then it just started to feel really fake, like I'm completely making up these visualizations, and I get into this thing where I'm like, am I just making all this up, and am I really even visualizing, or am I just imagining that I'm visualizing? And I guess that might be kind of an oxymoron, because visualization can be viewed as imagination. But anyway, I'm only this far, but this book fairly early on has, I don't know, it's cleared up some stuff, because she approaches this whole thing from a very practical standpoint. And she really apparently dislikes mumbo jumbo and stuff, and a lot of the New Age terminology and religious concepts and things like that. But she became a fairly effective channel or medium or whatever of sorts, and healer and all kinds of stuff, apparently. So she decided to write this book, and it's kind of like a practical guide on how to develop those abilities. And one thing she really touches upon early on is being able to detect, to sense the energy of things. Like the spiritual type of energy, or it sounds kind of like the energy that they deal with in radionics, where you need somebody to think of a certain thing or have a photograph of it or something to link to that object. And when you deal with the book, The Secret Life of Plants, that type of thing, where you have to develop this kind of link with the plant, and it has to do with the energy of the plant, visualizing that, so it can be just thinking of it. This has to do with like dowsing, when the Lewin spirit guides are saying to determine these magnetic flux lines, these of this grid for the new electricity, you're going to have people that are good with dowsing and things. You can't do it with a machine. So that, again, it's a sensing the kind of energy ley lines. That's the term I was searching for. But how do you do that? Well, what she points out is that we already do this. And the problem is, it's inextricably linked together with our interpretation of things, and we have all kinds of rationalizations for why what we are sensing is completely a rational phenomenon and is not something else, is not sensing a little extra. For example, I'll take this mouse. This is a wireless mouse I bought when I got my laptop back in 2008. Immediately, I get all kinds of energy from that spring of 2008 when I was about ready to go to a conference in Los Angeles, talk about my aging research, getting this laptop that I was taking the last course in my PhD program that turned into a master's program. You know, and then more than that, I can sense my awareness of the company, Kensington, and how they're known for really good peripherals, and then the design. There's a real kind of vibe that goes along with the design of this thing, and what Michal Levin is pointing out in this book is that when we're aware of a lot of those things, like when we have this old clock that we got from our grandmothers and it just brings back, you know, has this strong vibe. Like also I've got this painting from my aunt that used to hang above her dining room table. You know, all those things have a very strong energy, and I always thought, oh, well, it's just because it's just psychological. It's just because I remember those things and I have, like, you know, it's all subjective. And that's, you know, I started to realize that's what we do. We explain it away. We have such a materialist dogma in our culture that we have a rational explanation for everything that goes on in our perception. Everything. And the most common one is it's in your head. It's subjective. It's just your imagination. Has to do with psychology. You know, and it's like this hand wave that okay, oh yeah, psychology doesn't really exist. Bunch of hoopla, whatever. You know, the whole idea of it's just in your head means that you write it off. Therefore, it's just in your head. You write it off. Is something that your evolved mind that just came from a happenstance, random act of evolution just generated this idea, this perception, and that's all it is. You know, it's just noise. That's the connotation. They say it's in your head. It's just noise, and that's one of the first things that she really cracks through. You know, it's like this brick wall that she just cracks through really nicely, and it opens up this whole idea where you start looking at everything that you perceive, and you start to realize that it's like this, and then first of all you're like, oh well, vibe from Kensington, the peripheral company. Heck, if that Kensington logo wasn't on here and I didn't know it was Kensington, would I still sense that? You know, and my first answer is, well, probably not, and probably definitely not as clearly or as strongly. And what she points out is she can't see how those two things could be separated, how your conscious awareness of whatever facts surround an object plays into it, and how just the whatever other gut impressions you get from an object, she's saying it's all together, and so your awareness on every level contributes to your strength of perception, your clarity of perception of the energy and the vibe behind something. And that brings up interesting things. If it has like a fake logo on it, if this was a counterfeit Kensington mouse, you know, then what would happen? Well, she also points out that words and thoughts, they have energy. And so you take the fake Kensington logo and put it on the mouse, well, you're imparting some of that energy to the object. And this you know, that brings up advertising. You just think of all these things that we do in our society to give things this or that connotation, and spins that politicians put on things and stuff. So I guess what I'm getting from it first is that we perceive the vibe, the vibrational energy signature, however you want to look at it, spiritual energy, whatever, we perceive that for everything around us. We are awash in those kind of influences from other people and objects, and I'll touch on more of this later.